Master. When Moe heard this voice, he was so overjoyed that he almost cried. After experiencing so much setbacks and obstructions, he finally met Li Moying himself. Upon hearing Moe's voice, Li Moying went into a blank momentarily, and immediately following that, the thunder field disappeared and Li Moying's silhouette appeared in a flash, right in front of Moe. Why are you here? Where's Lear? Did she come back to the sect with you? No. Master. The sweat on Moe's head swooshed down all at once as he knelt down and sprawled onto the ground, not daring to lift his head up. Master, I deserve to die 1,000 times. I've fallen into someone's scheme. Third Miss, her whereabouts is unknown. What? Li Moying's eyes turned extremely wide as his gaze was like electricity as it shot towards Moe, seemingly piercing through him. What's going on? What exactly happened? Didn't I tell you to stay by her side, and not to leave her for even one step? I have been foolish and had been tricked by others. Even though Moe was crouching on the ground, he could feel the piercing and emotionless pressurizing look as his body uncontrollably trembled. He hurriedly related the entire story, from the forged letter to how he hurried back to the sect, and how he met with different obstacles and was unable to meet Li Moying in the process. This is what had happened. It had been 6 to 7 days since I left Third Miss, and if someone had ill intentions towards her, they would probably have carried out their evil scheme. Before Moe finished his sentence, he heard a loud bam sound as a bolt of lightning flashed past and a part of the mountain cliff was split apart by Li Moying on the spot. Numerous stray rocks started tumbling downwards, many of it hit against Moe directly, but he didn't dare to move, nor could he move. Because it was indeed due to his negligence which caused Huang Yuele to meet with danger, so he absolutely deserved to die. Li Moying spoke in a downcast and anguished voice. I remember that I had once told you that you're alive because Third Miss is alive. If Third Miss were to die, you also don't need to live anymore. Now, what do you have to say? I have no face to see Master and Third Miss, and I only beg for death. Moe already had no intentions to live after he realized that he had been tricked. The crime of causing his future mistress to die, in any of the great powerhouses, was absolute death penalty. He whipped out his sword and brought it to his neck, but Li Moying sent the sword flying away. Humph, not that easy. Gather all the shadow guards and follow me to South Yu Kingdom to save Lear immediately. If Lear managed to escape this calamity, then you'll be at her mercy. But if anything unfortunate happened to her, the minute he said the word unfortunate, Li Moying's heart felt a surge of heartache, too painful that his entire heart started to contract. If anything unfortunate happened, I will personally kill you in front of Lear's tomb. Go. Li Moying didn't want to waste any more time, and without taking another look at Moe, his figure moved and had already flashed several hundred meters apart, traveling at tremendous speed down the mountain. At this point of time, his heart was soaked in turmoil as it was tormented acutely. Every single minute and second felt like it was as slow as a year. He only had one thought in his mind, and that was his Lear was in danger. Even if there's just 1 in 10,000 chance, he must go and rescue her. He didn't believe that crafty and black-bellied little fox would easily be done in by others. She must be waiting for him to save her. You can also listen on. Li Moying's speed was extremely fast, and within a few breaths, he had already traveled from the rear mountain to the front mountain. Just as he was preparing to leave the sect, he met with a group of people face on. Moying, you already came out from closed-door cultivation. Myself, your junior brothers and junior sisters are preparing to go to the rear mountain to look for you. Hearing this voice, Li Moying frowned slightly but still stopped his tracks. The person who was approaching was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s with regular features and fair complexion. He was surrounded with a huge reception and helmed the grace of an expert. There was a beard below his chin and one could tell that he should be an outstanding and handsome man when he was younger. Li Moying cupped his fist in the other hand as he paid his respects, master. This person was Li Moying's master, the sect master of the sect whom he belonged to, sect master Murong. Murongda was reckoned to be South Sky region's first or second best expert and his cultivation had long entered the 9th stage realm. But the one thing that he was most complacent about was not to become the top exponent in South Sky region and not that he had gave birth a daughter who was the #1 beauty of South Sky region but, to have taken in such an outstanding talented genius disciple. Moying, I had already felt it in the front mountain. Earlier you had broken through to the 7th stage realm, right? You're just 20 years old and you've already broke through to the 7th stage realm. You're the first person in the history of Soaring Heaven's continent to have done so. Ha 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 ha. You're really my disciple. Murongda laughed heartily as the surrounding disciples went up to congratulate him one after another. Eldest senior brother, you're just so awesome. With eldest senior brother around, our sect will definitely become the #1 power in Soaring Heaven's continent. Murongda laughed, to have broken through another realm so quickly, your cultivation should still be unstable now, so why did you exit your closed-door cultivation so soon? There's still 7 days before the tournament so you better use this opportunity to continue cultivating to solidify your power. When it's time for the tournament, I will hold a magnificent party in your honor and invite all the South Sky region's powerful sects. Li Moying creased his brows as he replied, Master, I'm afraid I cannot continue to stay in closed-door cultivation. I have something urgent right now and must immediately make a trip to South Yu Kingdom. What? Murongda went blank and thought he had heard wrongly, return to South Yu Kingdom. Now. That's right. Li Moying nodded, Lear had met into danger and I had just found out. So I must immediately set off to rescue her. I have to leave now and if I'm able to find her, I will try my best to rush back before the tournament. What's the meaning of this? There's only 7 days before the tournament starts. You just advanced and the profound energy in your body is still unstable, and you're intending to leave the sect at this juncture. What joke are you making? I've never met someone who does such foolish things like you. Murongda's expression turned ugly as he resolutely said these words. Li Moying's expression turned chilly and replied in a firm manner, Master, I understand what you're saying but Lear is my life. If anything were to happen to her, then I won't want to live anymore so I must immediately go and rescue her. As for the tournament, I will try my utmost best to return by then. If I'm not able to, then treat me as the sinner of the sect. Anyway, I cannot leave her alone. You. Murongda hasn't expected Li Moying to shoot back so bluntly and almost couldn't grasp his breath. Although this eldest disciple's character of his was normally aloof and overbearing but he had always been respectful to his master and seldom went against his wishes, not to mention to directly reject his requests. This was the first time. You can also listen on. You want to drive me to my grave. Murongda's eyes turned rounded as he lamented in grief. A glint of guilt flashed past Li Moying's eyes but he didn't show any signs of backing down or changing his mind as he stood there firmly with a resolute tone. Master, this matter is my wrong. If the sect were to suffer any losses because I was not able to attend the tournament, then I'm willing to bear all the responsibility. But I must leave now because I cannot let my woman face danger alone. I'm extremely sorry. Saying that, his fist was placed in the other hand as he paid his respects to Murongda. Immediately after, he turned and walked out of the mountain's main door. Stand right there. Murongda never expected that the face of a master was actually not useful at all. In front of him, Li Moying only said a few sentences to explain and immediately prepared to leave. Li Moying heard the voice behind him but his footsteps didn't stop at all. Murongda shouted out in exasperation, Li Moying, you're the pride of our sect, and the entire sect had spent so much effort on you and used so much resources which made you who you are today. Now that the sect is in need of your help, you're going to leave because of a woman with an unknown background, casting aside your sect's pride and glory." Li Moying didn't reply. Muronde continued, "Li Moying, hadn't you always wished that Bairuoli could join our sect and let me preside over your marriage? If you dare to take a single step out today, don't even think that I will acknowledge that woman. And don't even dream of becoming husband and wife." Hearing that, Li Moying's footsteps halted. Muronde was delighted as he thought this sentence was a vital shot which strangulated Li Moying's vulnerable spot. Even though he had thrown out all the good and bad things, it wasn't as effective as saying one sentence about that woman. This made Muronde gloomy, but at least Li Moying felt threatened and was willing to stay behind. However, although Li Moying halted in his footsteps, but he didn't turn around. He opened his mouth once again and the tone was covered in frost. "Master, I'd always been respectful of you as an elder, so I wanted to bring the woman I liked back to show you, and not to get your consent. If you're willing to preside over our marriage, I'd be extremely glad, but if you're not willing to or even object to our marriage, it makes no difference to me at all. At the most, Lear and I will leave the sect together. Soaring Heaven's continent is so big, surely there's a place for us out there. I've seen you wrongly all these years. So you're those kind who'd be muddle-headed in times of relationship. Do you know what you're saying? Because of a woman. You're going to betray our sect." Muronde's expression turned green after he was rebuked by him, and even his fingers started trembling. In actual fact, he had not intended to let Li Moying take Huang Yueli as his wife from the start. From his view, in terms of identity or innate talent, that last born from South Yu Kingdom was totally incompatible with Li Moying. Only his precious eldest daughter Murong Fei was compatible with a genius like Li Moying. What's more, after his daughter had married Li Moying, allied through marriage, he would be able to control Li Moying better in his hands. Otherwise, even though they were master and disciple in name, but Muronde had long realized in the past few years that Li Moying was actually completely different from other disciples. He didn't care about the sect or master-disciple relationship. To him, it was just a matter of respect on the surface only. You can also listen on. Besides that, Muronde had realized when Li Moying was 7 or 8 years old, he was unable to teach Li Moying at all. Such a peerless genius with outstanding innate talent made anyone gasp in amazement and was not someone who could be easily taught by an ordinary 9th stage realm practitioner like him. For Li Moying to join his sect was really delaying his progress. The past few years had really been so. Every single time Li Moying advanced, it had nothing to do with Muronde at all, and Muronde didn't know why he could continuously advance that quickly, even breaking the record which Mu Qingying had left years ago, the fastest record for advancing to 7th stage realm. The teenager in front of him was destined to cause deterrence to the entire Soaring Heavens continent. And it's exactly because of this reason that Muronde imperiously wished that he and his sect could have closer ties with Li Moying to guarantee that when Li Moying made a rapid success in his future, he would still be bound to the sect. That was why, since Li Moying was young, he would intentionally let Murong Fei have different sorts of interaction between the both of them, in the wish that from childhood friends, they would start to have feelings for each other. But not knowing what happened, no matter how outstanding Murong Fei had been since she was young, or even getting prettier by the year, attracting South Sky regions or even other Sky regions' geniuses to compete for her love. Only Li Moying held a lukewarm attitude to her from beginning till now. As for this time, Li Moying had made a trip to the Dark Moon Forest and on the way visited his family in South Yu Kingdom, and in that small country, he found himself a fiancé. Muronde naturally could not accept this, but he knew Li Moying's temper very well. He knew he couldn't force him, so he used all kinds of reasons to coop him up in the sect. Muronde had not thought of murdering Huang Yueli because he knew very clearly that if Li Moying were to find out about it, he would definitely fall out with the sect. He only thought that a practitioner's cultivation route was very long, and perhaps after Li Moying had gone into closed-door cultivation a few more times and after several years, perhaps that lass in the South Yu Kingdom would not continue waiting for him. Perhaps she might change her mind and marry others, so by that time, Murong Fei would be able to take advantage of the situation and penetrate in, so that marriage would probably succeed. His plans was indeed not bad. The only thing was, Murongda had never expected that Li Moying would be so devoted to that lass from South Yu Kingdom. Even after he used his pride as a master and the sex relationship to coerce him, he was not hesitant for even a single bit at all. In Li Moying's heart, that lass was more important than the entire sect. Li Moying nodded slightly and his resolute gaze fell onto Murongda as he calmly and unhurriedly spoke. I don't wish for things to become like this as well. But if master must force me, I can only choose her. Once he finished his words, he strode forward again, and this round, he didn't stop at all. Murongda was angered till his face turned green. He was extremely furious, but he could not release his rage and had to keep it in. A blue-robed disciple said softly, Master, are we going to let eldest senior brother leave like that? Once he leave, he would probably not be able to make it for the tournament. Shall we activate the mountain isolation array? Or perhaps you can go after him personally. After all, eldest senior brother is only in the 7th stage realm and he's not your match. This disciple was one of Li Lingchuan's lackeys, and for him to interpose at this moment, his tone held a sense of gloating over his misfortune. TSK, Li Moying was usually arrogant and overbearing and was the apple of the eye of the sect master and several elders, so everyone thought his position was unshakable. To think that today, he had actually rebuked the sect master for a woman from the countryside. You can also listen on. Now that this had happened, would sect master Murong still place his trust in him and like him? Perhaps Li Moying might even lost the position of young sect master. In this way, Li Lingchuan might be able to ascend to this position. Thinking about this, the blue-robed disciple opened his mouth again. Eldest senior brother is really unreliable and didn't even respect you. Master might as well just take him down personally and lock him up. He also doesn't need to take part in the tournament, just get second senior brother back. Let him know that the sect will still do well even without him. Second senior brother isn't worse off than him any bit. Blue-robed disciple said delightfully as he felt he was incisive and knew how to talk well. These words not only undermined Murongda's impression of Li Moying, he also unsuspectingly brought out Li Lingchuan, earning Murongda's appreciation. Who knew when Murongda heard his words, not only did it not unease his tension, it brought out a paw slap on his face as he flew out. Who do you think you are? What do you know? How dare you sprout nonsense here? Get lost now. Blue-robed disciple struggled to get up as not daring to say a single word. He held his face and ran away with piss in his pants. Murongda hatefully looked at his leaving silhouette as he was unable to express the unspeakable frustration within his heart. These insensible disciples, what do they know? It won't take more than several years before a genius like Li Moying would become a star in soaring heaven's continent. Old fools like them, even though they were the sect's elders now, but by then, all of them could only prostrate on the ground to depend on him. Right now, it was the sect which couldn't lose Li Moying and not the other way round. If he wanted to leave, Murongda did not dare to stop him. The sky gradually turned dark. A knocking sound could be heard from the outside of the room. Huang Yueli raised her head and asked, "Who's that?" "Miss Bai, my master invites you to the rear garden." "All right, I know." Huang Yueli arose from her seat, tidied her clothes and followed the serving maid and left her quarters. In a blink of an eye, 7 days had gone past and today was the last day of Lu Baiyan and her agreement. The injury on her could be said to be a full recovery, and she had to admit that Lu Baiyan's medical skills were indeed skillful. Some days ago, She was still lying on the bed on her last breath, but now she was jumping about energetically just like before she was injured. After so many days, she had gotten a degree of understanding on Lu Baiyan's standard routine. Moreover, a puppet doll like her only needed to accompany him to eat and drink, and need not be around him daily for 24 hours. Generally speaking, Lu Baiyan would be in the pill furnace room refining pills during daytime and he would be cultivating in the night. Only during dusk would he ask the serving maid over to accompany him. During this time, Huang Yueli would wear the puffy-sleeved flowing dress which he had prepared for her and put on that jade phoenix hairpin with the rainbow spirit crystal inlaid and obediently run over to the pavilion in the rear courtyard to accompany him for his meal. During mealtime, Lu Baiyan would often go into a daze while looking at her. That gaze of his sometimes made the hairs on Huang Yueli's back stood up. She couldn't help but guess that she probably looked alike to the person he liked, which made Lu Baiyan keep staring at her. But, why didn't Lu Baiyan just go ahead and woo the lady he liked? Just based on him, divine Dr. Lu's power, looks and financial ability, if he could bring out his sincerity and faithful heart, probably very few ladies would reject him, right? You can also listen on. Every single time after they had their meals, Huang Yueli would be filled with puzzlement. But after thinking about it carefully, these matters wasn't of concern to her and she only needed to do what she should do. Besides that, today was the 7th day. After accompanying Lu Baiyan to finish the meal tonight, the agreement between them should be completed and both of them not owing one another. By then, she would have taken the test at Celestial Light Academy, followed by raising her power, then going to look for Mu Qingying in Sky Emperor City. In view that Lu Baiyan had completely fallen out with Mu Qingying to the point that even his name could not be mentioned, so she gauged that in future, she would never meet with Lu Baiyan ever again. By the time Huang Yueli had reached the pavilion, Lu Baiyan was indeed waiting for her there. The both of them had their meal as per normal, and as Lu Baiyan put down his chopsticks, Huang Yueli heaved a sigh of relief. The pressure on her was slightly heavy over the past 7 days, worrying that she might draw up Lu Baiyan's suspicions on her identity of her previous life, so she had been extremely cautious when she talked to him. Even the name she reported was by Ruoli. Finally, she was going to be relieved soon. However, before she could take another breath, she heard Lu Baiyan asked, "Do you know how to play the zither?" "Ha! You're talking to me." Huang Yueli went into a blank. Lu Baiyan turned his head back as he frowned slightly. "If I'm not talking to you, then am I talking to air? I don't have the habit of mumbling to myself. I don't mean it in this way, no need to explain, I understand." Lu Baiyan stared at her coldly. "Did you feel that after finishing this meal, your task would come to an end and you no longer need to entertain the uncle who is old enough to be your grandfather? I'm telling you, no matter if you're willing to entertain me or not, anyways, the agreed duration is 7 whole days. Tonight any time before midnight, you still have to listen to my commands." I know, why are you so fierce for?" Huang Yueli retorted. That was why. Pill masters were all unscrupulous businessmen. Lu Baiyan was a classic example of one such person. There was just a few hours more in the night. Did he need to be so petty, to squeeze out all her value and use her until the very last moment? She silently cursed him within her heart and had never once considered that if anyone were to say unscrupulous businessmen, ever since an outstanding armament master like her was born into this world, outsiders no longer criticized pill masters for being money-minded, and had all gone to criticize armament masters. Lu Baiyan stared at her coldly with a proud word plastered all over his face. Sigh, the debt collector was forever the boss, and had the authority to request her to do anything. Huang Yueli heaved another sigh yet again and replied, "I can play a few zither songs, but my standard isn't high at all. So don't expect any melodious tunes from me. Doesn't matter, I originally didn't expect you to have any talent at all." Lu Baiyan replied immodestly. "What the?" Huang Yueli almost exploded. Although it was for the sake of hiding her identity which made her say such humble words, but did this fellow had to reply so slickly and underestimating others like that? He really deserved to be punched badly. Lu Bian didn't bother about the blaze in her eyes and casually pointed to one side, saying, "Sit over there and pay me a tune." If your tune wasn't played properly, he lowered his voice with a threatening tone. Huang Yuelik hastily replied, "If I didn't play properly, then it would be because of your zither and not because of me. You can also listen on." Still dare to deny? Didn't you agree to satisfy all my demands? Lu Bian replied in an unfriendly manner. Huang Yueli stuck out her tongue and with quick steps, she walked over to the seat that he had pointed to. After a short while, the serving maids cleared the dinner table, carried a classic zither and placed it in front of Huang Yueli. Huang Yueli's eyes shone when she saw the classic zither. Wow, this is SP. This is a really good zither. She had recognized it on first instance. This was one of the top 10 zither in Soaring Heaven's continent, Sparrow in the Clouds. But just as she joyously gasped in admiration, she managed to change her reaction in time. That's right, the identity that she was playing now was a countryside lass who came from a small nation, and if she was able to recognize Sparrow in the Clouds on first sight, then it would be too fake, so she had to forcefully change her terminology. Lu Bian gave her a curious look, but he didn't give any further thoughts. He asked, "What tunes do you know?" Huang Yueli deliberated over her answer. "I don't know a lot, mostly it's just classics, for example, 3 stanzas of Plum Blossoms, Zen Heart in Cloud and Water, Mountain Stream, Phoenix Demands, play this one." Lu Bian cut into her sentence. "Play which one?" Huang Yueli blinked. Lu Bian rolled his eyes at her as he replied, "Stupid, you're so stupid. I'm asking you to play the tune Phoenix Demands." She was unfathomably being despised by him again. Why hadn't she realized this in her previous life, that Lu Bian had such a horrid character? No wonder he didn't manage to woo the girl that he liked and could only force other people to pretend to be a puppet doll to accompany him. Huang Yueli pouted as she brought the classic zither closer to her. Her slender fingers lovingly glazed over the zither's body and those 7 long strands of zither cords. A classic zither was as pretty as a beauty, it needed to be admired and loved by others. She could tell that this classic zither was maintained very well, and from the looks of it, Lu Bian had spent quite an effort acquiring it. To be able to play a tune on such a good zither, Huang Yueli was jumping for joy in her heart as her spirits gradually became stern. She quietened down and concentrated hard as her fingers suddenly shook and landed on the zither cord. A crisp, zhing sound was heard as though the black-naped oriole was leaving the valley. Immediately following that, the rhythm underneath her fingers became faster and faster, and a melodious zither sound was played continuously as it lingered around the quiet pavilion. The tune Phoenix Demands was originally a tear-jerker, soul-stirring story which was usually hummed or sung in a low tone. At this current moment, in view of the rising crescent moon, the pavilion seemed to be filled with an ambiguous atmosphere. Huang Yueli had initially intended to hide her skills, but the minute her fingers felt the zither cords, she basically threw the thought of hiding her skills away. As though it was an ability, the minute she touched the zither cords, she had turned into that previous life's #1 zither master in the continent. She involuntarily put in all her heart and soul into this tune, making it into a superb artistic achievement. Lu Bian was completely mesmerized, and it was only until Huang Yueli stopped when he looked at her in puzzlement, as though he didn't understand why she suddenly stopped. Huang Yueli met his gaze and said, "I've already completed playing." Lu Bian looked deeply into her eyes. "I really didn't think that you could play the classic zither." And her zither techniques were so well versed. Ever since that person died, it had been more than a decade since he heard such a melodious zither sound. Huang Yueli didn't understand what he meant, so she continued asking, "And what?" You can also listen on. Moreover, it is barely audible. I had thought that the tune that you played would result in a wave of noise pollution or maybe even break the zither chords. Praises came to his mouth but had been pushed back forcefully by Lu Bian. Unsure of why this was so, every single time he had to converse with this little lass, he just couldn't help but use his evil tongue style to tease her, as though it would make him miserable if he was not able to do so. This feeling made him feel relaxed, and this sense of relaxation was something that he had not felt even when he was with that person and previously. In front of that person, he had always felt that she was an almighty goddess. Even though his heart was fully occupied by her, but he didn't dare to confess even one single word and just kept dragging his feet. Subsequently, he finally decided to personally carve a phoenix jade hairpin with the rainbow spirit crystal, something which that person was always wanted, inlaid in it for that person's birthday. Other people always said this: if that girl was willing to accept the jewelry that he gave her, that meant that she understood his feelings for her. However, when it was that day, he arrived late because he was entwined by a patient, and by the time he had arrived at that person's place, he only saw Mu Qingying holding her wrist and putting on the bracelet for her personally. The goddess in his heart gave an overjoyed expression, her pretty dimples showing on her face while she was all smiles as she dove into his best buddy's embrace. Ever since then, all his feelings had turned into a secret hidden forever, buried into the deepest corner of his heart. Hey, divine Dr. Lu, uncle, granduncle, why are you in a daze? What are you thinking about? Don't tell me you're so old that you've already become senile. The young lady's lively voice pulled him back from his heartbreaking memories. Lu Bian turned his head and saw the devious smile on that young lady's face as she kept staring at him. And in between her hair was that jade hairpin which he had carved that year but yet never able to give it out. At that moment, Lu Bian's heart was struck heavily by a thought, which sprouted out uncontrollably from the bottom of his heart. He was unable to make that person stay, but could he make the her, who was right before his eyes, stay? Huang Yueli didn't know what he was thinking about. She only noticed that he was in a daze and his expression became uglier and uglier, as though he was about to cry out, so she came over to break his thoughts. She had been considered her own safety as priority, and without thinking, she knew that for Lu Bian, a fellow who loved his pride more than anything, if she were to see himself crying terribly, would he just exterminate her? She would be released from midnight onwards, so she couldn't possibly destroy that hope at the very last moment. Lu Bian looked at her deeply, and after a while of intense staring, until Huang Yueli's hair stood up, she subconsciously touched her own face. Hey, uncle, what are you staring at? I know I'm pretty as a flower and everyone loves me when they see me, but your age is really too old for me. Black lines filled Lu Bian's face as he cut into her words. I say, I asked you to play a tune and you just played one piece only. Are you trying to dismiss me? Where on earth would you find such a convenient thing? Continue playing, until I say stop. You're not allowed to stop. Huang Yueli's expression turned black immediately. What? Is there someone who would treat a zither master in this way? To play a tune on the classic zither is an art, and not some simple physical work. Do you know this or not? Moreover, after 11 tonight, I'm no longer your puppet doll. After 11 tonight, even if you kneel and beg me, I'm never going to play a tune for you. You can also listen on. That's right, now that you mentioned it, you just reminded me. Lu Bian touched his chin as a cunning look was displayed. Since I only have 6 hours to enslave you, then all the more I shouldn't waste it. Just continue playing from now till 11 before you stop. In between this duration, you're not allowed to stop for even one moment. Why, you? Huang Yueli's face turned green completely. If she really had to play for 6 hours continuously, then her fingers would probably be all ruined by then. What? Didn't we agree that within this 7 days, you must listen to me? 7 days is not up yet. A person must be honest and true to one's words. I'll play. I finally understand the meaning of playing a lute to a cow. Huang Yueli mumbled softly, determined that her next tune would be something horrible to the max so that she could make Lu Baiyan disgusted till he vomited. However, when her fingers touched the zither chords, she totally forgot all the grievances that she had earlier and subconsciously started to play properly. To use Sparrow in the Clouds to make a murdering swine sound would really be wasteful. She couldn't bear to do so. Luckily, although Lu Baiyan's words were horrible, but his organs weren't really that black after all, and he didn't make Huang Yueli play non-stop. Intermittently when Huang Yueli played the zither, she also squabbled several times with Lu Baiyan, and under the starlit sky, this evening went past quietly. The time slowly passed. When the time was up, Huang Yueli silently put down the zither in her hands and stood up. Divine Dr. Lu, the agreed time is up. These few days, I've been deeply cared for by you. I will never forget your kindness for saving me. However, the agreement to accompany you has now come to an end. By dawn tomorrow, I shall leave this place and set off to Sky Cloud City. Lu Baiyan looked at her slightly hazy but enchanting face under the stars as his gaze set in deeply. Are you in such a hurry to leave? The agreed time had just passed and you don't even wish to stay for one more day. Huang Yueli didn't expect him to ask such a question and curiously replied, didn't I explain this to you 7 days earlier? I have to hurry to Sky Cloud City to join in the enrollment examinations. This matter must absolutely not be delayed, so I must leave. Lu Baiyan replied, really? What's so great about the enrollment examinations? Isn't it held by just those few academies, by those broken small sects, so what's so great about it? If you want to learn profound skills, with my one word, I will be able to send you to the top sect in the entire Soaring Heavens continent and guarantee that you will become a direct disciple that the sect would expend all their effort in grooming. When Lu Baiyan said these, his face was filled with arrogance. Huang Yueli didn't doubt one bit that he was able to do so, but... Please, I'm a nobody to you, so why would you want to recommend me? You've already bent your rules to treat my illness and I'm already overjoyed by that. So please stop spouting nonsense, otherwise I may take it for real. Huang Yueli gazed one look and snapped at him before she turned around, preparing to return to her room. However, just as she was about to move off, suddenly her wrist was tightly held on by someone as she was pulled backwards. She lost her balance and fell into the man's embrace. What if I tell you that everything I said was the truth? Lass, if you're willing to continue and accompany me, I'll do what I said earlier and send you to the top sect in Soaring Heavens continent. I know you're a smart girl, so you should know what choice is most advantageous for you, right? You can also listen on. What happened? Don't tell me, you still haven't found her. A icy cold voice rang in one of the superior rooms of a guest house. A line of shadow guards bent their heads and bowed in front of Li Moying, wishing that they could directly bury their heads into the ground. 7 days, it's been an entire 7 days. You can't even find one person. She's just a second-stage realm lass who is heavily injured, so she can't possibly walk too far away. But even though it's like this, you're still unable to find anyone. What do I still need you bunch of trash for? Li Moying clenched his teeth as every single word hissed out from the gaps between his teeth. His eyes were bloodshot with obvious dark eye rings. His usually peerlessly handsome face became haggard. A sparse beard stubble formed on the corners of his upper lips and his disheveled hair hung on the sides of his face, adding some tones of despondency. The shadow guards kept quiet out of fear as no one dared to make even a squeak sound. Amongst them, the only one who was able to converse in front of Li Moying would be Moe. But as Moe was the one who had committed the wrongdoing. His head was already hanging by his waist, so no one else dared to advise Li Moying. All of you, go out and continue searching. If you're not able to find her, don't even bother coming back. Scram! As though they were given amnesty, the shadow guards ran off one after another. Li Moying sat disappointedly on the chair as his thick brows arched together tightly. His heart was in a state of chaos. 7 days ago, he didn't bother about Murongda's obstruction and immediately left the sect with an anxious heart. He used the fastest flying ship he could find, and the entire journey only took less than 2 days before he reached his destination. He searched along the way and very quickly, he found Kai Wei and the rest who were recuperating in the medical clinic of a small town. From Kai Wei's description, Li Moying found out the truth about Huang Yueli being ambushed. Even though he already had a bad premonition in his heart, but when he heard with his own ears on the truth that Kai Wei told, it was enough to make Li Moying's head split as tremors of pain gushed up, making him unable to hold up. So it had really been carefully planned by someone to lure Moe away and taking action against his beloved woman. Kai Wei was not eloquent, but even so, the happenings had been described to be such a hair-raising experience, so it was imaginable on how thrilling and dangerous the actual situation had been. For just one moment, Li Moying felt that his heart was almost pierced through by 1,000 arrows. However, Kai Wei's words gave him yet another sliver of hope. Although that killer was very powerful, but our young miss reacted swiftly and made use of the surroundings to obstruct him. Subsequently, young miss escaped into the forest and the killer also took chase. I saw the forest burst into flames as though they had engaged into a battle, but after that, the both of them did not leave the forest. I feel that young miss is so smart and so powerful, so maybe she's not dead yet. Upon hearing this, Li Moying's dull eyes seemed to have lit up a little. That's right, his Lear was so smart and so powerful, how would she just give her life away so easily? Even though the opponent she was up against was several realms ahead of her, but she would surely have a way and she would surely be waiting for him to save her. From that day onwards, Li Moying gathered all of his shadow guards and organized all the men who he could move and made them search around the surroundings of the crime scene. For exactly 7 days and 7 nights, he had not shut his eyes, not taken any food and purely swallowing some abstinence pills to get through the days, worried that he might miss any news regarding Huang Yueli. Yet, Huang Yueli seemed to have vanished in thin air as her existence had completely disappeared. You can also listen on. Senior brother, don't be too anxious. Based on the current situation, if there's no news about sister-in-law, it actually is the best news. If she were to meet with a mishap, we would definitely have found out, but now that we're not able to find her, she had probably hidden herself away to hide from the enemy to some secret place. Luo Jiyun gave a piece of his advice. As Li Moying had not returned, Murongda sent him to urge Li Moying to return to the sect about 4 days ago. However, when he reached here, seeing how distraught and despondent Li Moying was, he forcefully held back the words that he was asked to convey, not even mentioning a single word. For the past few days, Luo Jiyun had also been helping to keep a lookout, offering ideas. Li Moying showed a disappointed face. Your saying is so simple. If she was really fine and knew we were searching for her everywhere, won't she just appear by herself? Her refusal to appear in front of us means there must be some accident, or perhaps when she left this place, she was already seriously injured, or maybe the killer who pursued her had already brought her away. Luo Jiyun's expression turned pale. Of course he knew that what Li Moying mentioned was possible, but he didn't want to bring this out now. Senior brother, sister-in-law is so quick-witted, it's impossible that she would be brought away by anyone that easily. Just at this moment, a shuffling footstep sound was heard from the door, and following that, Moe's anxious voice rang. Master, master. The people sent out 2 days ago brought back an important news. They had met a highly suspicious expert in the town up ahead, and he was possibly the one who captured Third Miss. What? Quickly come in and speak clearly. Li Moying agitatedly stood up. The room door opened and Moe lent an arm to support a black-robed shadow guard. The shadow guard was obviously hurt and was not able to stand properly but still insisted on bowing to Li Moying. "Please accept my respects, master. How come it's only you alone? Didn't we send out 5 people to check on this? And you mentioned that you have the suspect. Where is he?" Li Moying hastily questioned. "Master, I'm incompetent. I let that suspect ran away." "What?" Li Moying's brows knitted tightly together. "The few of you had already advanced to 5th stage realm and your powers are not weak. Even with the 5 of you, you're not able to capture the other party." Shadow guards lowered their heads and ashamedly replied, "Yes, that person's power is indeed very strong and not some ordinary 5th stage realm expert. His cultivation methods and profound skills are much higher than the few of us by several times. We didn't expect the opponent to strike first, so we were caught unaware as 2 of us were heavily injured. Mo Lu and Mo Chi went after him but were injured by him, so only I made it back to report this." "Just who was that? How do you know that he is connected to Lear's disappearance?" Shadow Guard secretly raised his head and took a glance at Li Moying, but he pursed his lips, not daring to speak. "What on earth happened? Tell me clearly." Li Moying felt an uncontrollable surge of shock as a bad premonition arose within his heart. Could it be that something had happened to his Lear? Shadow Guard spoke as he trembled with fear. "After that person had injured us, he left a sentence, 'Go back and tell Li Moying that his woman is already dead. That lass had died more than 10 days ago.' Isn't he very capable? But he was not even able to protect the woman he liked." After having said that, the room went into a dead silence. Li Moying stared deadly at the shadow guard in front of him as he clenched his teeth, his face deadly pale. You can also listen on. Moe and Luo Jian were standing by the side, not even daring to breathe loudly. They all knew clearly the tremendous shock that Li Moying was under right now. The most important woman in his life, that lass whom he had held dearly in his embrace, had vanished silently to an unknown place just after he had left a few days ago. Moreover, the other party had taunted him in such a way. "Aren't you very capable? Too bad, you're not even able to protect the woman that you like." Even if these words were told to an ordinary person, as a man but yet unable to protect his own woman was an extremely disgraceful matter, not to mention that this was told to a peerless genius like Li Moying. His potential was limitless and had always been proud and arrogant. He had absolute confidence in himself and had always thought that if Huang Yueli were to follow him, she would become the most fortunate woman in this entire world. But the result? Reality gave him a tight slap in the face, completely shattering his self-confidence entirely. That's right. Not only was he unable to protect his Lear, the reason why she met with this uninvited misfortune was also due to him. If it hadn't been for him, Huang Yueli would never have met with such a powerful opponent, and she would definitely not met with a mishap. Li Moying felt his heart wrenched together into a lump, so painful that his entire body started convulsing. The shadow guards restlessly lowered their heads as sweat beads started to form on their foreheads, slowly dripping down their faces. Actually, when the other party escaped, he said a lot more things, and he had specially filtered the gentlest sentence. Those extremely vile words had already been swallowed by him, not daring to reveal the slightest bit. The other party's original words were, "Li Moying, aren't you very capable? Too bad, your woman is already dead, and she's already been dead for more than 10 days. Want to know how she died? When she died, it was so terrible. She had been surrounded by a bunch of magical beasts, and her flesh was stripped off her body while she remained alive, and even her bones were eaten until not a single bit remained. Ha ha ha, no wonder you all are not able to find her corpse." The shadow guards do not dare to reveal these words at all, fearing that it might agitate Li Moying. However, even though that was so, their master had still suffered a huge setback, as though he was unable to bear it. Li Moying's pain made his face turn pale and his entire body was trembling slightly. Luo Jiyun realized that something was wrong and he anxiously walked over to support him. "Senior brother, don't be like this. Sister-in-law she might not be dead. Perhaps that man was just telling lies. Moreover, since we have yet to find her body, just basing on a few words from that person, we cannot assume that something had really happened to sister-in-law. Pull yourself together. Perhaps sister-in-law is still waiting for you to save her." To tell the truth, Luo Jiyun felt that Huang Yueli had probably lost her life. But he was afraid that Li Moying would collapse because of this and could only say such things to stabilize him, at least giving Li Moying a sense of hope to persevere on. When Li Moying heard his words, his eyes finally showed a slight glimmer of hope. But at this very moment, Mo San hurriedly ran in and before he had entered the door, he cried out loudly, "Bad news master, brother Moe. Earlier the shadow guard who went to investigate the location which the killer had escaped had passed the message that he had found a large amount of blood stains and it looked like traces of wild beasts gnawing." "Shut up." Moe's expression changed as he sternly shouted out to stop him. However, it was too late. When Li Moying heard that, he spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. "You can also listen on." Bright red blood spilled out from the corners of his pale white lips, and flowed down from his perfectly sculpted jawline, gloomily cold yet strange. Li Moying's body shivered and was about to collapse. "Master! Senior brother!" Luo Jiyun and Moe rushed over to support him. However, Li Moying's eyes flashed a cold glint as he pushed them aside. "Go away." A powerful qi gushed out and the decoration in the entire room turned into powder within an instant. And the two people, Moe and Luo Jiyun, who rushed to the front were sent flying by the profound energy as they flew past layers of walls and fell out of the guest house. Li Moying swept his hand and the entire building was on the verge of collapse. The guest house had turned into a mess instantly and various screams and crying could be heard as everyone's first reaction was to escape outwards. Luo Jiyun threw up blood from the attack as several ribs on his chest were broken. With great difficulty, he struggled to get up and before he was unable to stand properly, he heard a loud boom. The 3-story guest house had completely been demolished. And in that pile of ruins stood a figure dressed in a dark black robe, slowly approaching them. Luo Jiyun raised his head and on one look, his entire body turned cold as he called out. "Senior brother!" Li Moying had walked right out of the ruins with a layer of frost in his eyes. His eyes had turned bright red, as though blood was going to spill out. Fluctuations of an extremely powerful profound energy was emitted from him and even though there was some distance away, they could clearly felt that this overbearing strength was enough to destroy the world. A powerful pressure, like a tall mountain pressed down on each and everyone's head. The fluctuations from his profound energy had impressively been raised and reached the peak of 9th stage realm. Moe raised his head and was completely shocked by what he saw. Li Moying's eyes revealed a bloodthirsty and emotionless chilly glare, as though surely Master's illness couldn't have flared up now. At this moment in time, Li Moying couldn't feel anyone's vision and even though Luo Jiyun and Moe were not far away from him, he had not noticed them totally. In his heart, there was only one thought and that was, he was not able to protect his beloved woman. Again. He couldn't understand why was it again and was feeling frustration rushed in madly, bloating his brain up as though it was about to explode. In the bright red vision, he saw many flashbacks. In the ice fields which were enveloped in that never-ending icy coldness was a petite figure surrounded by several top exponents. He anxiously chased after them, chasing and chasing but no matter how he tried, he was not able to chase up to them. He only saw a blinding flame shoot up into the sky and under the flames, that young lady's figure melted away and disintegrated. In the haze, he seemed to notice the lady's face and it was layered over his leer's looks. Why? Why was he always unable to protect his own woman? Even though he had such outstanding talent and held such power, but, in the end, he was never able to protect the thing that he wanted to protect the most. Li Moying's senses slowly blurred and all his consciousness were enveloped by that hate and regret. He unconsciously took a step forward, and yet another step. The amethyst light sword in his hand had been drawn, as though he wanted to kill those people surrounding his lair, sword by sword, as though he wanted to split their lives apart. You can also listen on. Following Li Moying's unconscious movements, an extremely powerful profound energy swirled in the sky willfully. The minute he lost his consciousness, his cultivation had instantly raised to the peak of 9th stage realm, so every single strike he threw out held incomparable explosive grandeur, like a hot knife through butter, pressing forward. Every single place his strike hit, all the obstructions were swept to a knot. The surrounding homes were completely demolished by him as the bricks formed a rubble on the ground. The townspeople were shocked as they cried while escaping in different directions. The usually serene town had instantly turned into a living hell. However, Li Moying didn't seem to have any intention of stopped, as the murderous glint in his eyes flourished and with a sinister expression on his face, he continued moving forward. Luo Jiyun stared at him shockingly with his eyes wide as he broke out in sweat, unbelievably uttering, this can't be true, right? Senior brother his illness acted up. Judging from the surrounding grandeur from Master's surroundings, he had already reached the peak of 9th stage realm. Moreover, he has completely lost conscious and unable to recognize us, so his illness probably acted up. Moe was also shocked beyond his imagination, but he was still able to remain composed. Luo Jiyun was still unable to believe it, but today is not the night of a full moon. Senior brother had never had his illness act up on other days. Moe's face turned grave as his brows knitted closely. It didn't happen in the past doesn't mean it won't happen in future. Young Master Luo, do you remember what Divine Dr. Lu said when he came over the previous time to treat Master? Luo Jiyun's eyebrows lifted as he tried to recall and his expression suddenly changed. You mean to say... Moe nodded gravely as the both of them saw deep worry in each other's eyes. At this moment, a shrilling cry was heard from afar, pulling their senses back. That's it, we're finished, what should we do now? Senior brother's illness actually acted up now. We aren't prepared at all. What should we do? Luo Jiyun was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot, except that he didn't turn around in circles. Moe said, we're not able to control the current situation. Every time Master's illness acts up, he must take the medication first. Otherwise we will require several of the sex elders who are in 9th stage realm to take action together before we can surround him in an isolated boundary to stop him from going on a killing spree. But now, there's only 2 of us here, and we're obviously unable to stop Master. Luo Jiyun hurriedly added, what shall we do? The last time senior brother's illness acted up, luckily we were in the Dark Moon Forest. Killing a few magical beasts were nothing at all. But now this town was filled with ordinary people who were not able to cultivate. If senior brother were to kill them by mistake, when he regains his conscience, he would blame himself to death. To kill the innocent and even to massacre the entire town, those with morals would definitely not be able to do such a thing. And Li Moying was not such a person. Moe was calmer and after thinking for a while, he clenched his teeth. We have no choice. Let's do it this way, we'll try to think of ways to attract Master's attention and lure him away. At least we have to make him leave the town's boundary to the empty land outside. This way is much better than letting him stay here to kill someone. Luo Jiyun nodded instantly. Great, let's do it this way then. We'll stand on both sides and when the other is almost caught, the other will be in charge of distracting him. You can also listen on. The both of them had discussed for a short amount of time, and based on the current situation, there was no time to let them hesitate. The both of them instantly took action. However, they quickly realized a problem, and that was, Li Moying was totally not affected by their distraction. The fact that their potential as a 5th stage realm practitioner, in front of Li Moying's absolute power, was simply not enough. Moe took action first and struck an attack towards Li Moying. However, before his flexible sword could even reach 10 meters around Li Moying's surroundings, he was completely thrown out. And Li Moying's line of vision had not changed a single bit. Luo Jiyun flew forward as he caught Moe. "Brother Moe, what happened to you?" Moe coughed out a mouthful of blood as his face turned pale like a sheet of paper. I'm alright, but Master he's simply too strong. We are unable to go near him at all. What should we do? Luo Jiyun had no more ideas, and as both of them's face showed a despaired look as they could only watch Li Moying's silhouette going further and further away. Just at this moment, from not too far away suddenly came a familiar voice. Why is it so messy here? And why are there so many people running about? Brother Moe, Junior Brother Luo, what are you guys doing here? A crisp, melodious voice with deep puzzlement from a young lady was heard. When they heard this voice, Moe and Luo Jiyun seemed to be struck by lightning as their faces revealed a lifeless expression, their bodies seemed to be glued to the ground, not moving at all. Brother Moe. Junior Brother Luo. The young lady curiously stared at them as she walked over with quick steps and faced them. Hey, what are you guys doing? And why is it so messy here, as though a typhoon had ran over? Don't tell me magical beasts had invaded this place. Hey, why are you guys ignoring me? We've not met for just over a month and you don't recognize me anymore. Huang Yueli's face was filled with puzzlement, only feeling that the two of them looked like they had just seen a ghost, and their hearts filled with astonishment. She subconsciously touched her own face. Weird, why were they looking at her like that, as though they didn't know her? Could it be that her face was disfigured? But surely not right. That day when she was pursued by Zhuo Fangping, her face was indeed filled with some injuries, but after applying Lu Baiyan's medication, the wounds had completely healed, not even leaving any scars. Just at this moment, Luo Jiyun finally regained his senses. Using his finger to point at Huang Yueli's nose, his mouth opened wide and called in a tongue-tied manner, "Why? You are sister-in-law." Pa sound was heard as Huang Yueli slapped his finger away, saying in a dissatisfied tone, "No manners. Haven't your master ever taught you this? Pointing at someone in this way is a serious lack of upbringing." Even though Luo Jiyun was lectured by her, he was not angry at all. Instead, he screamed an "ah" sound as he used his hand to pinch his own thigh. Heavens, I'm really not dreaming. Ouch, so painful. No wonder I'm not dreaming, so this is real. Sister-in-law, you've really returned to life. You're not dead. Moe was also in a state of shock and joy, almost crying out. Third Miss, you're really not dead. Really, young Master Luo, I also saw, Luo Jiyun screamed, no. Although sister-in-law is back, but it doesn't mean she's not dead, she could be a spirit. Tell us, are you human or ghost? I must check properly. You can also listen on. Saying that, Luo Jiyun reached out his hand towards Huang Yueli's face to pinch her. Huang Yueli hurriedly moved aside as she said in a dissatisfied tone, "What ghost or not ghost? Who's dead? Don't you dare curse me, I'm warning you." Saying that, she suddenly realized what they meant, and after a moment of daze, her eyes widened as she spoke. Wait a minute, you guys thought I was dead? What's the situation now? How did you guys find out that I was almost killed? That's right, aren't you all accompanying Li Moying and the sect in closed-door cultivation? Why are you guys here now? Moe replied, this third miss, this matter cannot be explained so easily. It's good that you're all right. As for the intricate details, I'll explain to you after a while. Now, there's something pressing that you need to do, please follow me now. Luo Jiyun was still unable to overlook this as he continued questioning, sister-in-law, are you human or ghost? Could it be that you cannot bear to leave senior brother alone and purposely returned as a spirit form to see him? Huang Yueli was left speechless as she pointed to her feet and said, do you see my shadow below my feet? Pointing to the top of her head, do you see the scorching sun above? Have you ever met any ghost who has a shadow and which ghost dared to come out onto the streets under such a scorching bright afternoon? Luo Jiyun dumbly replied, in this case, you're a living human. Do you even need to ask? Moe was already losing his patience listening by the side and he tugged Huang Yueli's sleeve, pulling her along while running. All right, young Master Luo, please do us some good and stop acting like this. What time is it now? Can you stop stirring up trouble? Third miss, please hurry and follow me this way. A fifth stage realm practitioner's speed was naturally much faster. Huang Yueli was tugged along until she stumbled and almost fell. Brother Moe, what's the hurry? And where are you bringing me to? Did you come over with Li Moying this round? Is he nerb? Moe led her to a turn and his footsteps slowed down as Huang Yueli also came to a halt. Raising her head, she was shocked by the image she saw. Even the words that she had said halfway were swallowed back. Moments later, she shockingly said, "Th. This is Li Moying." Looking at him, don't tell me his illness acted up again. Moe replied, yes, Master has already lost his conscience and had been destroyed the surrounding structures, we're totally unable to stop him. Huang Yueli muttered, how did it become like this? Hadn't he always been in the sect? How did he appear here? Moreover, today is not full moon's night, and it's bright daylight now. How did his illness suddenly act up? Luo Jiyun couldn't keep it in as he shouted loudly, sister-in-law, you don't know. Brother Moe was not recalled by his master, but had been tricked by bad people. Eldest senior brother met Brother Moe and knew you were in danger. So without caring about master's obstruction, he insisted on leaving the sect before the tournament to come here and save you. In the end, he searched for 7 days and nights but was unable to trace your existence at all. This morning we found the killer who tried to assassinate you, but he said you were already dead and your corpse was devoured by magical beasts. Eldest senior brother was enraged and he became like this. What? Huang Yueli's eyes turned wide, totally unable to speak as a scorching warm sensation gushed up her head. He left the sect at such a critical juncture, just to come and save me? You can also listen on. That's right, senior brother Luo Jiyun wanted to continue talking but was interrupted by Moe. Enough, we can talk about these later on. The most important thing now is to hurry and stop Master from killing. Master hasn't had a shut-eye for 7 days and nights, and if he forcefully raises his cultivation to go on a massacre, I'm afraid his cultivation might regress. Luo Jiyun shut his mouth immediately and nodding furiously, he turned towards Huang Yueli and said, sister-in-law, we were still in a dilemma on what to do but luckily you came along. Now, only you can save senior brother. Huang Yueli felt extremely shocked at this moment. She really didn't expect Li Moying to suddenly appear here, and he had been here since 7 days ago. Just to search for her, he hadn't rested at all, and because he thought that she had passed away, he was agitated until his illness acted up on the spot. So actually, it turned out that in the past few days when she thought she could only struggle and rely on herself for survival, but this man had never forgotten about her for a single moment. Hearing Luo Jian's plea, she nodded immediately. Okay, I'll go try. You guys wait here. Saying that, with big strides, she marched towards where Li Moying was. Moe shouted to remind her, "Third miss, you must take caution on your safety. If you can't manage to stop him, you must retreat immediately." However, Huang Yueli was not able to hear any sounds from the outside world now. Her line of vision had completely been attracted by the man in front of her, and all her concentration had been deprived by him completed. A dark-robed Li Moying, emitting unexcelled power around him, used his cold, bloodthirsty glare and stood up high up on the ground looking at everyone as though they were ants beneath his feet. Using a disdainful look from the corner of his eye and turning his nose up at everyone. His appearance was so icy cold, so ruthless, but when that blood-red eyes swept past her face, it made Huang Yueli shudder. The flawless facial lines had perfectly sculpted facial features, diagonally slanted brows, cold and aloof thin lips. Everything about him carried an air of might which could not be overlooked, making everyone unable to control themselves to acknowledge allegiance to him. Huang Yueli walked slowly towards him, as though she was enchanted. And when Li Moying realized that Huang Yueli was nearing him, he put down the sword in his hand. He turned around, quietly paying attention to that young lady in front of his eyes, watching her take one step at a time, getting closer and closer to him. That icy cold deep eyes displayed no feelings and his face had no expression at all. Even though he had already put away his stance, but the profound energy that was emitting naturally from Li Moying's body was still very strong. The nearer one was to him, the strong the pressure. Even if it was an 8th-stage realm practitioner, he would not be able to take it much longer at this point of time. But Huang Yueli was still getting closer. It's not that she had not felt that tremendous pressure and not that she didn't notice the impact and injuries on her body. But it was a kind of strength which controlled her conscious, attracting her uncontrollably towards him. She could only continue to get nearer and near to him. When the distance between the two of them were only 2 meters, Huang Yueli suddenly felt her brain buzz. Her entire soul was on fire and was in immense pain. Her vision turned back and her legs went soft, almost falling onto the ground. But at the very next moment, she felt her waist tightened and a gust of power was felt pushing her to fall forward as her body weight crashed against the robust chest of a man. Immediately following that, her breath was completely plundered from her. You can also listen on. The minute their lips met, Huang Yueli's conscience turned even blurry. This kiss was exceptionally scorching. It carried an overbearing sense of determination to win and had a kind of reckless and impatient heat, as though it was going to swallow her completely. She knew this was not right because she had someone in her heart and Li Moying was just a visitor in her life. However, she had no strength and had no way to go against this man's advancement. All of her soul from each corner were clamoring to her to go nearer to him, give in to him and accept him. In this man's embrace, she turned into a puddle of water. Without his support, she didn't even have the strength to stand properly, as though she was about to blend into this man's body. This kiss lasted for very, very long. From the overbearing advancement initially to the gentle lingering towards the end, who knew how long it lasted for. When Huang Yueli's lips were finally released, she almost fainted in Li Moying's embrace as she raised her head and opened her eyes slightly to look at the man in front of her. Li Moying's blood-red pupils had regained normalcy and his icy cold facial lines had turned softer. Lear. You're really not dead, you're still alive, he muttered softly and his arms tightened to bring her into his embrace, with quite an amount of strength. His strong, robust arms were hooked around Huang Yueli's waist, as though iron bars, totally unshakable. Huang Yueli was bound till she felt pain and her expression had turned slightly green. Damn it, Li. Li Moying, let me go, let me go. Can you be gentler? I can't breathe. The arms around her waist loosened slightly but didn't let her go. Li Moying buried his head on her neck and rubbing against it as his hot breathing blew against her sensitive neck repeatedly, making her feel uncomfortable, subconsciously withdrawing her shoulder. Lear, you're really alive, you are really alive. Did you know how frightened I was? I'm afraid I am not able to protect you, and have to see you die in front of my own eyes again. Even your bones are not left. Again. Huang Yueli felt this word seemed a little weird, but before she could think deeper, her attention was diverted. Because Li Moying's voice sounded like it was trembling and it held obvious signs of choking. Surely he wasn't about to cry, right? You. Li Moying, are you all right? She hurriedly asked. I'm all right. Li Moying was still lying against her neck, refusing to raise up his head. As long as you're alive, I'll be all right. You haven't slept in 7 days and 7 nights, and you call that all right? I know you're strong, but you cannot neglect your own body like that. Look at me, aren't I in one piece? Can't you trust me to take care of myself? I believe. Li Moying cried out softly, but you're still not grown up yet. Moreover, I'm your man, so protecting you is my responsibility. Huang Yueli was stunned momentarily, wanted to say that you're not my man. But after what happened earlier, when she recalled all the things that this man had done for her, the words of rebuttal were stuck in her throat, unable to speak it out. The two of them hugged each other for a while more, and not long after, Li Moying's body suddenly started to shudder before he suddenly KO'd and leaned entirely towards Huang Yueli's body. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli hurriedly caught hold of him and saw that Li Moying's eyes were shut tightly. Apparently he had lost consciousness. Luo Jiyun and Moe hurried over too and took over Li Moying from her. Master's knocked out cold. These few days he didn't rest at all and his illness acted up today. If it hadn't been for the profound lunar spirit mirror that third Miss Yu refined, he might not have been able to hold on for that long. Huang Yueli nodded as she was slightly embarrassed to look at Moe and the rest. After all, she and Li Moying had just displayed a passionate scene in front of them. And now if she were to just purse her lips slightly, she would be able to feel the pain that her lips were in, so apparently, it was swollen. The previous guest house naturally was not fit for staying anymore. Moe and the other shadow guards made a stretched and with great effort, they finally found a not too bad guest house in the town and carried him inside. The townspeople were long frightened out of their wits and no one dared to go near them. All the townspeople looked at them from a great distance, standing in awe of them that group of people were doing. Huang Yueli was extremely anxious as well, so she followed them in. For an entire night, Li Moying drowsed while he was unconscious and had not woken up at all. As for Huang Yueli, she stayed by his bedside. Worries filled her anxious face as she looked at his pale white handsome face. That long lashes hung down, casting a shadow beneath his eyes. The corners of his lips had a light purple color, and that still and weak look was totally different from his usually overbearing ways. Accompanied with that extreme handsome looks, he looked especially pitiful. Huang Yueli touched his forehead and felt that he was cold as ice, ringing alarms in her heart. In normal circumstances, when one's body is injured, fever and body heatiness was considered normal. Even if the fever was really high, it would eventually go away. But if a body was constantly cold, that would be dire. There was a possibility of serious internal injury or some other dangers. Huang Yueli stood up to put the blanket on for Li Moying before turning towards the door. When she opened the door, several shadow guards stood in 2 lines and bowed in respect to her. Third Miss. The attitude of the shadow guards were especially respectful. She nodded and asked, "Where is Moe? I need to ask him something, so please take good care of your master." Shadow guards displayed their loyalty in haste. Third Miss, please be assured that we will take good care of Master. Protector Moe is in the next room, let me show you the way. Without hesitation, the shadow guards executed Huang Yueli's order. All of them had heard from Moe on Huang Yueli's status and knew that this seemingly petite and weak young lady was their future mistress, the person whom their master wanted to protect with his life. In the next room, Moe and Luo Jian were sitting opposite one another with a deep hinge of worry casting over their faces. I went over to senior brother's room to take a look and his facial color is still not very well. Looks like this round's acting up is detrimental to his body. We don't know when he will be able to regain his conscious. Moe replied, I really didn't expect that third Miss's disappearance would agitate Master so much that it actually caused his illness to act up immediately. Today's not even full moon's night. Luo Jian frowned when he heard that. That's right. There's something weird going on. Why did eldest senior brother's illness act up when it's not even a full moon's night? This had never happened in the past. Moe's expression turned grave. Young Master Luo, have you forgotten what Divine Dr. Lu said when he came over to give treatment to Master that time? You can also listen on. Divine Dr. Lu. What did he say? Luo Jian asked puzzledly. But before Moe could reply, he suddenly recalled and cried out in shock, Ah, I remember now. You mean to say, under Luo Jian's intense sight, Moe slowly nodded. Heavens, how could it be? Why would such a thing happen? Could there be a misdiagnosis? Luo Jian cried out unbelievably. Moe's tone turned dull as he continued, I also don't believe in such a matter, but Divine Dr. Lu is the continent's #1 divine doctor and this is a diagnosis that he came out with, so how could it be wrong? Right now, this had really happened and we don't know after Master wakes up, how would he become? The both of them exchanged glances as they saw the worry in each other's eyes. Just at this moment, the room door was opened with a bang. Huang Yueli walked in with big steps and asked, What are you talking about? Is there any problem with Li Moying's illness? And you guys were talking about Divine Dr. Lu. Are you referring to Lu Baiyan? Both of them were shocked as they stood up from their chairs. Ah, third Miss, why are you here? Yes, sister-in-law, aren't you taking care of senior brother? Has he awoken? Huang Yueli shook her head. He's still unconscious and sleeping but his body temperature keeps getting lower and lower. I'm worried about his condition so I'm here to discuss with you guys. What were you discussing about? What did Lu Baiyan saw about his condition? Moe looked as here and hesitated. Luo Jian directly said everything out, sister-in-law, that year when Divine Dr. Lu gave treatment to senior brother, he had specially reminded that eldest senior brother cannot be agitated. He said, under normal circumstances under full moon's effect, eldest senior brother's illness should be controllable under the medication. But if he was agitated and his illness acted up outside full moon's night, that would mean what? Huang Yueli asked anxiously. Luo Jian pursed his lips, that would mean senior brother's illness has worsened. It might even cause danger to his life. And when the frequency of acting up increases, he would be very difficult to cure. What? Huang Yueli's eyes widened with shock, standing in a daze. She had never expected that Li Moying's illness this round would have such dire consequences. And the reason for his illness to flare up was because of her accidental disappearance, which possibly meant she was killed by someone. In actual fact, both of them had only knew each other for only 2 months. Huang Yueli had thought that even if Li Moying had real feelings for her, it might just be the beginning and this heart-throbbing feeling was still very slight. As long as the both of them are apart for quite some time, it would disappear with time naturally. But she had not expected that both of them were only apart for just a month, and not only did the feeling not lessen, instead it had deepened. Li Moying heard about her mishap and rushed over without any hesitation just to rescue her. Huang Yueli received his swan goose letters and naturally knew that the tournament with the West Sky region sects was extremely important to his sect and knew that Li Moying had great gratitude towards his teacher. He had always wanted to repay Murongda. But now, because of her, this man didn't care about anything else. You can also listen on. The fact that Li Moying rushed over to save her made her extremely touched, but what shocked her was that he actually lose control of his illness because of her. This showed the influence that she had over this man was much stronger than anyone else, and it would directly string along all of his emotions. Moreover, this made Huang Yueli even guiltier. Originally, Li Moying's illness, which acted up once a month, was already under control for many years under Lu Baiyan's medication. It had not caused any fatal injuries to his body and his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. If Li Moying's condition had worsened because of her, he might even die while in his prime. Every single time Huang Yueli's mind flashed past these thoughts, she would feel a painful sensation in her heart, so painful that she could not help but bend over. Moe called out, "Young Master Luo, don't." Without Li Moying's permission, Moe really didn't dare to utter such thing in front of Huang Yueli. But Luo Jiyun didn't bother and just told her the cause and effect. Divine Dr. Lu said the problem with senior brother's unstable soul was inborn and he could only control it, but not possibly heal it completely. So we must be extremely careful not to let it worsen. As long as his illness acts up outside of full moon's night, that would mean that his soul had weakened again. Then the difficulty of controlling it would increase and his condition might just worsen all the way. The more Huang Yueli heard, the more alarmed she felt. She pondered for a moment and suddenly stood up. "I have to go out for a moment. The both of you stay here and take good care of Li Moying." The two men went into a blank. "Where are you off to?" "It's so late and the sky is already dark." Huang Yueli replied, "I think you guys don't know this. Lu Baiyan is staying in seclusion nearby. From the town we are in, it only takes around 10 miles of distance." "What? Sister-in-law, how do you know?" Huang Yueli replied, "To tell the truth, when I was pursued a few days ago and almost lose my life, an expert saved me. Subsequently I found out that this expert is Lu Baiyan. Divine Dr. Lu had kindly offered shelter to me and healed my injuries, which was why I was delayed for such a long time." "Divine Dr. Lu saved you." The puzzlement on Luo Jiyun's faces gradually faded away and immediately following that, he let out an overjoyed expression, so Divine Dr. Lu was actually staying in seclusion in such a remote place. No wonder we were not able to find him these few years. "That's great, let's hurry and look for him now." Saying that, he turned his head and said, "Sister-in-law, where does Divine Dr. Lu stay?" "I'll go instead, the night is so late already and a young lady like you better not be running out at this timing." Huang Yueli frowned and said, "No, when I left, Divine Dr. Lu had reminded me that I absolutely cannot leak out the whereabouts of his home. So I must look for him personally and moreover, only I can go alone. All of you better stay here." "What? How can we do that?" Luo Jiyun subconsciously stopped her. "That's right, 3rd Mississippi. If you go out at this timing and if anything were to happen to you, what am I supposed to tell Mater? At least, let me accompany you," Moe said. But Huang Yueli's attitude was extremely resolute. "What? Don't all of you want Li Moying's life already? Now only Lu Baiyan could possibly save him. If you follow me and anger him, then he won't help to treat your master, then what should we do? You can also listen on." Huang Yueli brought out Li Moying so Moe and Luo Jiyun was rendered speechless. No one dared to treat Li Moying's health as a joke. So even though they were not willing to, they were forced to see Huang Yueli slipping out into the middle of the night. Huang Yueli was not too concerned about her own safety. After all, she was not a weak young lady, and without Zhuo Fangping, the kind of experts spying on her, normal dangers would not be able to threaten her one bit. Very quickly, she found her way to Lu Baiyan's secluded courtyard based on her memory. In actual fact, the boundary of this courtyard was installed with several high-leveled invisible arrays. Without the lead from the courtyard servants, it was impossible to enter the courtyard based on their own ability, or even to see such a place from the forest. From afar, one would only be able to see a serene and weird forest at where the courtyard was located. Obviously, this was a piece of cake to Huang Yueli. She ran like she was flying, and passing several obstacles, she reached the doorway of the courtyard. When the guard saw her, his eyes almost dropped out. This, Miss Bai, how did you make your way here? Huang Yueli replied, we can talk about this some other time. Stop fussing, is Lu Baiyan in the pill furnace room? I need to see him now, I have a very important matter. But... Master He, before the guard could finish talking, Huang Yueli had already went past him and directly walked in to look for Lu Baiyan. Pill furnace room, not there. Study room, not there. Pavilion, not there. Even Lu Baiyan's bedroom, Huang Yueli also didn't care to avoid suspicion and ran inside to take a look before discovering that there was no one there. Lu Baiyan. Where did you run off to? Come out this instant. She started yelling. No one responded. Huang Yueli called out yet again, Hey Lu Baiyan, Uncle Lu, Divine Dr. Lu. Where on earth are you hiding? Quickly come out. Didn't you say I can look for you anytime and you welcome me anytime? Why are you ignoring me now? That night, Lu Baiyan held her in his embrace in an attempt to make her stay and accompany him. However, Huang Yueli rejected him without even considering. Divine Dr. Lu, we already agreed on 7 days timeline, don't tell me you're not going to keep your promise and want to go back on your words. One cannot be non-genuine, right? To be declined by a woman so directly was his first time. Lu Baiyan's face was thrown away and he was feeling upset inside. He had finally met someone who made his heart tinker after a decade. Don't tell him that he had to give up so easily. But as the #1 divine doctor, he was someone reputable in soaring heaven's continent, so he cannot just snatch a woman off the streets. Moreover, he knew that such things cannot be pushed. Lu Baiyan had no choice but to fall back. Alright, since you've already said until like this, I won't make things difficult for you. I know you have urgent matters, so you can go ahead and settle your stuff. But since we have some dealings, so in future if we do meet again, you have to treat me nicely. As for my courtyard here, I welcome you back to visit any time. Based on Lu Baiyan's position, to say such things to a second-stage realm lass, if Huang Yueli was not going to agree, she would really not know what's good for her. Besides that, there was no guarantee that she might require Lu Baiyan's help in future. So Huang Yueli naturally agreed good-naturedly. She had never expected that she would come and ask Lu Baiyan for help so soon. You can also listen on. If she had knew earlier, her attitude towards Lu Baiyan for the past few days would be much better. At this moment, the courtyard's guard had finally chased up to her and said, Miss Bai, why are you so impatient? My master had just left this afternoon, saying he wanted to travel around, he wouldn't be back within a short period of time. He left. And it's actually during this afternoon. Huang Yueli blinked her eyes in shock, somewhat surprised. Lu Baiyan had just asked her last night to continue staying in this courtyard with him, which meant he didn't have any plans to travel in the short term. But right after she had just left, Lu Baiyan also left right after. Furthermore, this was the moment when she needed Lu Baiyan the most. Was there a need to be so fraudulent? Huang Yueli would never had thought that Lu Bian felt that he was a failure. He finally expressed interest in a girl but was eventually rejected, so he casually accepted a medical request from a large sect and took this opportunity to divert his mind. Since Lu Bian wasn't around, Huang Yueli could only leave in disappointment. Just right after Huang Yueli left, Li Moying, who was in the superior room in the guest house, had slowly opened his eyes. Senior brother. Master. When they saw him wake up, both Luo Jiyun and Mo were so agitated that they pounced over right away. Li Moying blinked his eyes in bewilderedness, and when he saw the two men in front of him clearly, a glint of disappointment flashed his eyes. Before he went unconscious, he had obviously seen his Lear appeared before him. Could it be that it was only his hallucination due to his illness acting up which clouded his consciousness? Lear, he softly spat out these few words. Mo hurriedly replied, Master, don't worry. Nothing happened to third miss at all. Earlier she had showed up and her condition looked rather well and she was very energetic. She was also the one who recalled your conscious, do you still remember? Li Moying heaved a sigh of relief. From the looks of it, it wasn't his hallucination. His Lear had really returned in one piece. And he had embraced her tightly. But where is Lear now? He looked around but didn't see Huang Yueli's figure anywhere. Earlier the relaxed brow started to crease again. Mo replied, Master, third miss had been staying by your bedside, refusing to leave. But after that, when she saw that you remained unconscious, she was so worried that she said she would invite divine Dr. Lu to give you treatment. She had just left just an hour ago. Li Moying's arch eyebrows knitted together as his piercing eyes stared at Mo. Even though he had just awoken and his body was still weak, but that sharp like razor eyes still made Mo break out in sweat. Divine Dr. Lu. Which divine Dr. Lu? Don't tell me it's Lu Bian. Mo hastily nodded, it is Mr. Lu Buyen. Third miss said divine Dr. Lu was staying in seclusion nearby and the reason why she could escape unscathed was due to divine Dr. Lu. So for your well-being, she had gone over to look for divine Dr. Lu to save your life. Before Mo could finish his sentence, he had already saw Li Moying's expression change, and as his right hand struck out, a crashing sound was heard as the flower vase by the bedside was smashed to smithereens. Mo jumped in shock as his entire face was filled with surprise. He had thought that Li Moying would be overjoyed when he heard how concerned and worried Huang Yueli was to him. However, who knew that he would throw such a huge temper? You can also listen on. Li Moying's face was so black that ink almost dripped out from it. Do you know what time it is now? You guys actually allowed Lear to leave the guest house alone to look for a male stranger. Oh, he was worried about Huang Yueli leaving alone and meeting with danger. Mo relaxed slightly and hastily explained, Master, don't worry. Third miss said divine Dr. Lu stays nearby and moreover, third miss is a second-stage realm practitioner. The townspeople around here are all commoners and there aren't any magical beasts in the forest, so she should be safe, should. Li Moying furiously stopped him from continuing, should be safe. Lear had gone alone to Lu Bian, that pervert's home, and you call that safe? Mo went into a daze and continued shortly after, but, although divine Dr. Lu is dissolute, but surely he's not lewd. Moreover, third miss said she had been staying with divine Dr. Lu for the past few days. What Mo meant was, if something were to happen between the both of them, it would already have happened long ago, and why wait till today? Li Moying got even angrier when he heard what Mo said. Several years ago when Lu Bian treated him, Mo and Luo Jiyun were just watching from afar and didn't know exactly what happened between him and Lu Bian. But Li Moying felt that Lu Bian actually really, extremely hated him, even to the point of saying he cannot hate him enough. During the treatment process, Lu Baiyan intentionally tortured him, thinking of different ways to torment him, making him feel that death is better than life. Li Moying really didn't understand what he did to offend this #1 divine doctor whose name was famous in the entire soaring heavens continent, but he didn't feel fear. That year he was still very weak. Since Lu Baiyan dared to offend him in this way, he would remember this debt and sooner or later he would become stronger. Just a Lu Baiyan was not enough to become an obstacle in his pathway to advancement. Actually, Li Moying totally couldn't understand why, since Li Baiyan hated him so much and so obviously, in terms of words, action, or even the treatment process, he had hardly refrained from showing his hatred, but he was still unwilling to let him die. Instead, he was trying ways and means to save him. Li Moying knew that in order to dispense pills to curb his rare and exotic illness, the amount of effort and finances that were required to be put into this was unimaginable. Even the sect which he was in were to give up everything they had, they would still be unable to take it. But Lu Baiyan insisted on saving him. Even though he had used various ways to torment him during the treatment process, but eventually Lu Baiyan still managed to refine the pills. Moreover, he didn't accept any treatment fee. Subsequently, when Lu Baiyan was about to leave, Li Moying asked him this personally. "Since you hate me so much, why did you save me?" Lu Baiyan couldn't be bothered to show the hatred he had and replied icily, "Because only when you continue living then would you ever recall one day the wrongdoing that you did. You being alive, would be able to accept the punishment. If you died, won't it be too easy for you? Moreover, only when you're alive then can I prove that I'm stronger than you." Li Moying was puzzled as Lu Baiyan continued, "Remember, I saved your life so only I can kill you. Don't be so weak like a dog, and before you even advance to the 9th stage realm, you're already killed by those trash. Don't make me despise you further." After finishing these absurd words, Lu Baiyan left. You can also listen on. Li Moying had thought about this matter after the incident, but since he had no answer to it, he put it aside. Anyway, Lu Baiyan was known to be weird, and didn't his best buddy, the #1 expert, Mu Qingying, also fallen out with him? Lu Baiyan didn't seem to have any friends and was alone by himself, so whatever weird stuff he came up with didn't seem so weird after all. But after this matter, Li Moying's disgust towards Lu Baiyan had risen to the peak. For the first time in his life, Li Moying felt that he was unable to resist against such a tremendous pressure in front of Lu Baiyan, and he was the first to say that he despised him. Other than this, Li Moying could also clearly felt that there was a sense of repellent in his bones against Lu Baiyan. As for now, he heard that his beloved Lear had actually stayed together with the man he hated for so many days. Heavens knew what happened between these two. Now his woman went to beg Lu Baiyan to save him. He rather die than beg Lu Baiyan, and he wouldn't want his woman to beg him. Thinking of this, Li Moying dragged his weak body and sat up, trying to get off the bed. Luo Jiyun had a big fright and hurriedly rushed forward to hold him down. "Senior brother, your body is still very weak, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get something? Can you don't move, stop moving alright? Whatever you need, just tell me and I'll get it for you." Moe wiped off the sweat on his forehead and said, "Master, I've overlooked and allowed Third Miss to go out on her own. But I've sent some people to patrol the area near the forest to wait for Third Mississippi. I will now go personally and look for her, so please don't worry, look for her. Are you sure you guys can find her?" Li Moying sneered. On a casual note, would an expert on a different notch like Lu Baiyan's home be easily found? Unless it was a 7th rank array master, otherwise one would probably not even be able to find Lu Baiyan's main door. He pushed aside Moe and Luo Jiyun, not bothering about putting on his shoes, and rushed outwards. "Senior brother, no." Li Moying's figure went by in a flash and reached the ground floor. Subsequently he flew at a great speed towards the direction of the forest. Luo Jiyun and Moe chased after him with their might but were not able to keep up with him. In the night, they saw Li Moying's demonic-style silhouette, almost not able to see him clearly. Whoa, isn't senior brother seriously injured? Why is his speed still so fast? Wasn't he in a critical stage this time? Luo Jiyun was dumbstruck. Moe's face was filled with astonishment as well. That's weird. The time Master took to wake up this time had relatively shortened and is really abnormal. Speaking of this, the previous time in the Dark Moon Forest, Master awoke rather soon too, and subsequently his recovery was also very fast. Why was these 2 times? The both of them exchanged glances and suddenly shouted, "Aw," together. They recalled at the same moment. In the last 2 times, Li Moying had not lost consciousness because of the depletion of his profound energy, but, under Huang Yueli's assistance, he had controlled his illness in the middle of it, and subsequently he went limp from then on. Could there be some connection somewhere? Before they could complete their thoughts, a petite figure appeared in front of them. In the darkness, her baby pink dress was especially eye-catching and her appearance attracted their attention instantly. "Lear." Li Moying's surprised voice sounded. He jogged a few steps beside Huang Yueli and carried her up. "You can also listen on." Huang Yueli was walking alone in the middle of the night, and from afar, she could sense a strong energy speeding towards her direction. She had been anxious initially and armed herself. But after she heard Li Moying's voice, she relaxed herself. The man's familiar breath was blown by her ear, firm yet gently cradling her, making her night of uneasiness come to an end. Recalling the things that this man had done for her, Huang Yueli's heart turned soft. She stretched out her hand over to Li Moying's waist and hugged him back tightly. No matter how much worries or how much hesitation she had, at this moment, she simply didn't care about it. She only knew she must hug him tightly and feel his body warmth to tell herself he was still well and right beside her. As for Li Moying, his feelings were exactly the same. The 2 people hugged tightly together, and it was after some time before Huang Yueli came to her senses. She gently pushed Li Moying's chest and said, "When did you awaken? Why didn't you rest in the room, but run out in the middle of the night? If you catch a cold and your injuries worsened, what should we do?" Li Moying listened to her soft and gentle vocals and almost shed tears on the spot. After so many days of uncertainty and unrest, finally, heavens gave him his best return. His Lear was alive and in his embrace. What's more, she was so beautiful and cute, and so sweet. Li Moying took a deep breath and answered in a low voice, "You're not around, so I didn't have the mood to rest. I kept dreaming that you were pursued by assassins, bitten by magical beasts, so I couldn't sleep at all. When I awoke I didn't see you, so I thought that I was hallucinating when I saw you earlier." Huang Yueli heard what he said and her heart ached immediately. She hurriedly held his hand and said, "What nonsense are you sprouting? How can I be a hallucination? Don't you see me jumping around energetically? Alright, it's my fault, I shouldn't have left halfway. Let's hurry back, and this time, let me accompany you and not leave you for even one step. Sleep well, alright?" Li Moying looked at her for some time, and when he saw her clear eyes which showed her anxiety and heartache, he nodded. Okay. The few of them returned to the guest house, and Huang Yueli discovered that Li Moying's room had been changed. She said astonishingly, "That's weird." Moe saw her hesitation and was worried that she might say something which might infuriate Li Moying, so he quickly pushed the both of them into the room and said, "Master, 3rd Miss, have a good rest. I'll leave my leave now." Finishing his sentence, he closed the door and slipped away quickly. Since 3rd Miss was around, she could settle his master, who didn't recognize anyone when his illness acted up, then this surely would be chicken feet for her, so he might as well not stay and find trouble for himself. The room was left with Li Moying and Huang Yueli. Li Moying wanted to say something, but when he turned around, Huang Yueli's delicate and pale complexion face expressed obvious signs of tiredness. That usually bright, adorable eyes seemed listless. His heart ached for a while, not knowing what to say. His leer was actually worried for him. Huang Yueli passed by him and with quick steps, she flipped the blanket aside and supported him. Quickly lie down. It's already the 4th night watch period, so if you don't rest, dawn will break very soon. You can also listen on. Li Moying seized the opportunity and laid on the bed while nudging aside, leaving the space beside him empty, and made an anticipative expression at Huang Yueli. Leer, come and accompany me. Huang Yueli's face turned black as she replied, what are you thinking about? I'm warning you, don't you dare have awry thoughts. Li Moying broke out into a smile as the corners of his lips curled upwards, displaying an evil smile. Who's the one having awry thoughts? Have I done anything to you that I shouldn't? I only felt that you looked tired and wanted you to rest here with me. How about you? Why is your face so red? What were you thinking about? Huang Yueli was stifled by his words and was left speechless. Li Moying turned sideways slightly. His clothes were slightly disarrayed as his firm, sexy chest was exposed. A few drops of sweat dripped down along his vein lines on that jade-white skin. Huang Yueli's vision uncontrollably attracted by the movement of the sweat bead, and it was until it disappeared and was absorbed into his clothes before she suddenly came back to her senses. She raised her head and, as expected, she met with Li Moying's mocking glance. Leer, what are you looking at? Your glance is so lewd, don't tell me you have ulterior motives towards me. If you still haven't seen enough, why not I take off this shirt? Otherwise your disappointed look really make me unable to bear it. No need, I'm not disappointed at all. No need, there's really no need. Hey, you're not allowed to strip. Huang Yueli couldn't help but started screeching. But Li Moying continued to tug at his waist belt, and taking off his shirt, he threw it onto the ground. What are you doing? Huang Yueli felt her face was almost bursting into fumes as her eyes did not dare to roam freely. Leer, your face is really red, Li Moying chuckled with a low tone, bearing deep seduction in his voice. Huang Yueli felt the burning heat on her face and kept reminding herself to remain calm, must remain calm, however. It yielded little results. Heavens, why was she so abnormal? Why did her face flush red? In her previous life, it wasn't just 1 or 2 times having seen a naked man's body, so she had never given it another thought. After all, when a practitioner cultivated, there was bound to be some kind of injury or the likes, so the situation of shedding the clothes were a common scene, and she was not some pure, innocent young lady, so what was the fuss about? But today, she was totally unable to control her tendency to blush. Huang Yueli patted her face as she tried to find a reason. Today's weather is really warm. This room's ventilation is not good at all, it's so stuffy. I'll go open up the window to get some fresh air. Ah. As she was saying that, she turned around and wanted to walk away, but was pulled by Li Moying suddenly grab on her wrist as she fell onto the bed. Huang Yueli was caught unaware, and as her feet was unsteady, she fell backwards. Just nice, she fell onto Li Moying's body and couldn't help but made a dull moan. She moved her body wanting to stand up. While using her palm to support herself, she didn't feel the mattress cover, but instead her hands touched a piece of warm, smooth skin. She withdrew her hand subconsciously but fell down once again. Li Moying took advantage of the situation and held on to her waist as he took her entirely into his embrace. Huang Yueli's expression turned ugly as she pushed him away. Li Moying, let me go. You're a ruffian, daring to tease a gentlewoman. Why? You're too shameless. You can also listen on. Li Moying couldn't help but burst out into laughter. What did you say? You're some gentlewoman. Obviously a ruthless little fox. Yet still dare to pretend to be a little rabbit? Moreover, I'm hugging my fiancé, it's entirely justified, so in what way am I shameless? I never admitted that I'm your fiancé, so don't you? Wu En. Huang Yueli's utterly discomfited voice was pushed back once again by that man's cold lips. Li Moying sealed her lips tightly, gently caressing it. It was a gentle and light kiss, and not long after, he raised his head. Huang Yueli's eyes were opened wide, staring fiercely at him. Li Moying saw what she was doing as he laughed. Lear, your mouth is pouted so high that it can practically hang a bottle of oil. You, shameless. Huang Yueli felt that she hadn't suffered such indignance for a very long time. This man's skin was thicker than hers, his cultivation was higher than hers, and yet he stuck to her like chewing gum, totally unable to shake him off. If given just a little sunlight, he would shine brightly. Unfortunately, Huang Yueli couldn't bear to deal a vicious hand on him, because whenever she thought of how he gave her his everything, she would recall how Mu Qingying from her previous life had also came from afar to save her. Moreover, this man was nursing some serious internal injury, not knowing when he would get slightly better. So although she had thousands of ways but in front of him, she was unable to use it. Huang Yueli's twisted expression had fallen into the man's eyes. Li Moying secretly curled his lips as he expressed a contented smile, like a cat which successfully stolen a fish. He had finally understood that although Huang Yueli talked tough at times and would resist every time he kissed her, but ultimately, she had never really dealt him with any vicious hand, so her heart really couldn't bear to do it. Recalling those people who couldn't get her, like the Crown Prince and others, they had only spoke impolitely to her and they were already schemed until they almost died. Towards his little fox, he was much closer than them. But it seemed that she had not tormented him at all. When Li Moying thought of all these, his smile grew wider. Anyway, this little fox didn't mean what she said, and since he was already clear on this, that would mean that he wouldn't be giving her any chance to back down. Although her mouth kept saying she don't like him, not willing to in whatever relationship they had, but as long as this little thing didn't reject him, he would continue to pursue her endlessly. Anyway, as a practitioner, they would have a long time to tangle with each other, and sooner or later, this little fox would willingly agree to be his woman. Li Moying caught hold of Huang Yueli's resisting little hand and called out lightly, all right, stop making a scene, okay? I'm really tired, didn't you see me passing out earlier? You're still bullying me here. Who bullied you? It was obviously you. Huang Yueli became gloomy. Li Moying laughed, all right, it's all my fault. Can we rest now? If we still don't rest, it will be dawn soon. Saying that, he went nearer and gave a gentle peck on Huang Yueli's fair and bright forehead. Good night, Lear. The man's deep magnetic voice was heard by her ear. The scorching warm breath and the light kiss in the dark and misty room was so ambiguous, so enchanting. In that instance, Huang Yueli suddenly felt peaceful, as though her heart had finally found a harbor to park, her body completely relaxed. You can also listen on. This night, Huang Yueli slept very well all the way till sun was already shining brightly before she finally awoke. Moreover, she was woken up by the heat. The minute she opened her eyes, a magnified handsome face appeared right before her eyes, almost making her break out into cold sweat. But immediately following that, she remembered what happened and discovered that she and Li Moying's bodies were entwined together, and that man's arm acted as a pillow under her head for an entire night, not knowing if it had turned numbed. Huang Yueli immediately pushed him and prepared to get up. Who knew? Li Moying's throat raised out some blurred murmurs, and as his arm tightened, he brought her into his embrace once again as his head rubbed against her neck, tickling her. "Li Moying. Let go of me. I want to get up," Huang Yueli whispered. Li Moying murmured, "Sleep a little while more, I'm dead beat these few days. Then you can continue sleeping, let me get up first. I don't want to, I want to hug you while sleeping." When Li Moying said these, his reply was fast and smooth. He didn't seem like he was that tired after all. Finishing what he said, he had no qualms about continuing to hug his extra-large little fox bolster as he rubbed and smelled her and continued to sleep. Huang Yueli grew gloomy and pushed him a few times, but this man was really powerful as his body was like a steel wall, not shakeable by that little bit of energy by hers. Huang Yueli's movements became bigger and this man lost his patience as he tangled himself onto her. His long and powerful thighs clamped her legs, rendering her immovable. Suddenly, Huang Yueli stopped moving as her face blushed a tinge of pink, as though her acupoints had been immobilized. The reason was because when Li Moying clamped her from behind, she sensitively felt something was pressed against her. Surely it wasn't. It wasn't that thing, right? Fuck. Huang Yueli felt sick all of a sudden, only wishing to give this man a flying kick on the spot. Unfortunately, even though she struggled for very long, she only felt the feeling of being pressed against getting more and more obvious. Moreover, Li Moying was obviously in a semi-conscious state, not knowing what unhealthy dream he was having. Besides his hug becoming tighter and tighter, he also started to rub against her body. Huang Yueli pushed him with her blushing face for a while before an idea finally came to her mind. She whispered beside his ear, "Li Moying, quickly let me wake up, I'll go make breakfast for you." Breakfast? Li Moying muddle-headedly heard the keyword. NN. My cooking skills are not bad, haven't you tried it the other time previously? Li Moying recalled the time when he tried this little fox's cooking when they left the Dark Moon Forest on the flying ship. That delicious taste was the best he had ever tried in his entire life. Moreover, just thinking about his little wife busying herself in the kitchen to cook for him made his heart warm up. Li Moying finally released the grip from his arm. The little lass in his embrace immediately went down the bed and like a wisp of smoke, she ran out of the room. What a joke! If she were to continue staying here, she was worried that she would not be able to protect her own chastity. Just how did she get smitten by this man yesterday and actually agreed to sleep on the same bed? Although nothing happened between then, but it was still a disgraceful thing. What's more, from other people's view, they were fiancé and fiancée, and since they were sleeping together, they would definitely assume that they had some kind of relation, so even if she were to jump into the Yellow River, she would not be able to clear up this rumor. You can also listen on. Truth had proven itself, Huang Yueli's worries were not superfluous. Huang Yueli was in the guesthouse's kitchen and spent an amount of effort to simmer a bowl of porridge and prepared a few varieties of snacks. When she carried the serving tray into the room, Luo Jiyun and Moe were already seated beside the table as a strange smile hung on their faces as they fixed their gazes on her. Huang Yueli frowned as she turned to look at Li Moying and found that he had fallen asleep again. The greenish-dark color under his eyes had lightened slightly but had not completely faded. Apparently, these few hours of sleep was not enough to offset that amount of time he had spent previously. Huang Yueli didn't wake him but left the serving plate on the table. When she walked near, Luo Jiang couldn't help but got closer with a gleeful expression. Sister-in-law, was it tiring for you to take care of senior brother yesterday? It was okay, not tiring at all. He's tired, so when he returned to the room, he fell asleep immediately. Huang Yueli replied calmly. Luo Jiyun blinked his eyes, apparently not believing her words. Really? Sister-in-law, but when brother Moe and I came in earlier, we saw senior brother's clothes and waist belt were all thrown onto the ground, and he was sleeping in the inner corner. The outer side of the bed seemed to have been slept by someone. Even under Luo Jian's curious gaze, Wang Yueli still remained extremely calm. She breezily threw Luo Jian a glance as her tone was exceptionally peaceful. "Oh, about this, I got slightly tired taking care of him last night, so I leaned against the bedside to rest a little while. Don't I have the right to take a little rest? There's just one bed here. If I'm not going to lean on the bed, where can I lie? As for the clothes, if you're going to sleep, isn't it natural to take off your clothes? Don't tell me when you guys sleep, you still wear your outer clothes. There's no pajamas to change into here." Moreover, Li Moying had got into a battle when he went out last night, so his clothes were already dirty beyond words. "Later please bring it out to wash, and make sure it's washed cleanly." Saying that, she easily overthrew all the suspicions that Luo Jiyun brought out. Moreover, she had started ordering them to work. Luo Jiyun's eyes widened as he turned tongue-tied. He thought he had finally found an opportunity to tease his sister-in-law, but in the end, it seemed like he was the idiot. "That's right, you must sleep since you're tired, and of course, sleeping should be on the only bed. The clothes were too dirty, so naturally you must take them off when you're going to sleep. All too normal, extremely normal." Moe saw Luo Jiyun's dejected expression and shook his head. Young Master Luo was still too young. He didn't know this sister-in-law of his was as hard to deal with as his senior brother, so he wanted to tease her. It was an impossible thing to do. Huang Yueli pulled a chair and sat opposite the both of them. "All right, stop the nonsense. I have something important to tell you guys." "What's the matter?" "Third miss, please feel free to say it." The two of them hurriedly replied. Huang Yueli continued, "Yesterday I had originally intended to ask Lu Baiyan to do a medical consultation for Li Moying, but in the end, it was such coincidence. I left the previous night and yesterday morning, Lu Baiyan had went out for an outpatient visit, so I had made a wasted trip. Moreover, I have no idea when he will be back." Luo Jiyun and Moe looked at each other and recalled what Li Moying had told them yesterday when he heard Huang Yueli had gone to look for Lu Baiyan, as well as the violent rage that he had expressed. You can also listen on. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.